and I'm an aircraft maintenance engineer.
Okay, so what's that?
So, uh, basically, I fix airplanes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Uh,
mhm.
Sorry, go ahead.
So just any type of fixing that needs to be done, or do you specialize in one part?
So, it depends on who you work for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's two different licensing for aircraft maintenance engineers.
Okay.
So, there's more than two. Okay, let me
Mm-hmm.
break it down this way. So there is avionics,
Oh,
which they deal more specifically with the avionics of the aircraft, the electronics, the electrical of the aircraft. And
uh-huh.
then there's structures guy who deal with the body, any damage to the body.
Mm-hmm.
They take care of that sheet metal work. And then there's the M guys, which is me. Uh, so the M guys take care of the whole aircraft. Uh,
Okay.
and within that M category, there's two licenses. There's M1 and
Mm-hmm.
then there's M2.
Mm-hmm.
So M1 deals with small aircraft,
Mm-hmm.
and then M2 deals with what we call large aircraft, but in Transport Canada classification, it's considered a transport aircraft. So most of the time, it's any aircraft that carries 19 passengers or more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm licensed in both M1 and M2, so
Oh,
I can work on small aircraft and I can work on big aircraft.
okay. Oh,
So
that's pretty cool. So what
yeah.
inspired you to go into this profession?
Well, I've always been excited about aircraft since I was like 10 years. You know, back home, we see the airplane passing and we're like, hey, bring us some sweets, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And from that age, I always wanted to get close to the aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so back in 2006, I got accepted to the University of Fraser Valley to do my piloting uh, business of Bachelor of Business in Aviation.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, I could not afford that because the government does not provide the student loans for those kind of programs.
Oh, really? Oh,
So I could not afford that. Well, at the time when I wanted to do it, there was no such thing. I don't know, maybe things have changed now.
mm-hmm.
But in 2006, there was no funding if you wanted to be a pilot. You would have to get private funding, which is getting a loan and all of that, and I
Mm-hmm.
could not afford that. So I looked around to see what else I could do around airplanes, and I discovered aircraft maintenance engineering, and I found out that I had more in common with what they were describing for the program, like having the technical aptitude and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I applied to FATE, and I got accepted in there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was a 2-year program at
Okay.
FATE.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I did my apprenticeship for 2 years
Mm-hmm.
um, before I could sit for the Transport Canada exam.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so to get into that, there is actually more than one way to get in. You don't necessarily have to go to school full time for the full 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Before you can sit for the license, you need at least 4 years in total. So 4 years with about 2 years in school and about 2 years experience.
Mm-hmm.
So what some other guys do is they find a company willing to take them on as an apprentice,
Okay.
and they will do about 3 months per year
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
school, and then the rest of the time they're working as an apprentice. Um, but for me, I found that it was easier to just go do the schooling part all at once and get it over with, and then focus on the work experience.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so once you're done with the work experience and all your schools, uh, it has to be an accredited school,
Yeah.
uh, recognized by Transport Canada. But
Mm-hmm.
once you're done with that and you have enough experience, you can apply to Transport Canada to sit for your exam,
Mm-hmm.
and they will take your logbook and see if you have completed all the tasks required, and
Mm-hmm.
then you write for the exam, and if you pass, you get your license.
Okay,
So,
okay.
yeah.
So is it pretty competitive to get the license and all those and just go into the industry?
It is,
Mm-hmm.
but there's also quite a few guys that are in the retiring age right now. So you'll
Mm-hmm.
still be able to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
I've usually within, I don't know how the industry is right now, because it's up and down. Sometimes there's lots of jobs and sometimes there's not much. When I finished school, I had a job before I even finished school, so that
Okay.
worked out in my favor. But
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of guys who stay about 6 months without a job, so
Yeah.
it depends on the time.
Okay. Does it also depend on where you are within Canada or okay?
Most definitely, whether you're in Alberta or in Ontario, will make a big difference. Because if you look at Alberta most of the time,
Mm.
almost everything in Alberta is affected by the oil industry.
Yeah.
And so, especially if you are working for a small if you are looking into these small companies, you find
Mm-hmm.
that during the times when the oil is struggling, there is not much work going on there.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah.
Okay. So what's the usual career path for an aircraft maintenance engineer?
So like I said, you can choose to go to school first.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to a place like Southern Alberta Institute of Technology,
Okay.
and so once you get accepted at school, you just go straight to school and do your 2 years, and
Mm-hmm.
then apply. Like even while you're at school, you can
Mm-hmm.
apply to a company and start your apprenticeship even while at school. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and also the other route to take is you apply to a company, get accepted as an apprentice, and then
Mm-hmm.
uh, start your schooling at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, once you get your school done, uh, you apply to Transport Canada to get your license done,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you don't necessarily have to have a license to work on the aircraft. Uh,
No.
you you can work without a license, but you cannot sign anything.
Okay.
So you need the license to sign. So every work that we do on an aircraft, we have to
Mm-hmm.
sign for it to say we did this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order for you to sign, you have to have an aircraft maintenance engineer's license.
Yeah.
And so that's the difference between the apprentice guys or
Mm-hmm.
technicians and the engineers.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So the
Okay.
engineers have been audited, they've been looked at by Transport Canada, and they have written the exam and they have passed the exam.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So how easy is it to advance within the profession?
It's it's like not too bad. Depends on the company that you work for, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you work for a small company, it's pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like I once worked at a company where I was just an engineer for about 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
and within 6 months I was the base manager for that company.
Okay.
So it
Mm-hmm.
depends on the company that you work for, the number of airplanes that they have, and
Mm-hmm.
what type of work they do. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
there are advancement opportunities, but it all depends on the company that you work for and the structure that they have.
Mm-hmm. So would you have to take more courses and get more licenses to get an advancement, or how does it work?
No, it's mostly by experience. Of course, having uh, management courses will help. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
if you have done some courses that show that you know how to handle people and you know how to communicate properly, it gives you an advantage, but not
Mm-hmm.
necessary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what does a typical day look like for you?
So what's that?
What does a typical day look like for you?
Okay, so right now I work for a private contractor
Mm-hmm.
and I work on different airlines.
Mm-hmm.
So my typical day is I go into work,
Mm-hmm.
I talk to the guy that already has been at work for that day. Usually there's somebody who has already been in before me,
Oh.
and I find out what's going on, what planes are coming in,
Mm-hmm.
any issues with the planes that are coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take, for example, yesterday I came in and we had 3 planes coming in for the night.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes the planes come in and they will stay for the night, or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they turn around and go back to where they come from. So if they're coming, if they're just turning around and going back where they came from, or going to a different base,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the airline that you're working for, most of the time the plane comes in, you take a walk around, you walk around the whole aircraft,
Mm-hmm.
looking for anything that's broken, anything that uh, like check the tires, check the wings, make sure there is no fluids that are leaking. And
Mm-hmm.
then once that's all done, you go upstairs and talk to the pilots and make sure that they don't have any issues with the plane. If they have issues and it's something that they cannot fly with, then you fix it. And if it's something that they can fly away with, then you do the paperwork required for that and they
Mm-hmm.
go away. Uh, but for the planes that are staying overnight, we actually take more time to do a proper inspection of every area,
Mm-hmm.
and we sign the books and we wait for the morning to come and when the planes leave,
Mm-hmm.
and we go talk to the crew, let them know the plane is good, and they give them the books and they go. And we just wait for them to take off, make sure that there's no issues before they take off.
Mm. Okay.
So that's a typical day for me. Most of the times I see, I can see anywhere from 5 to, anywhere from 3 actually, 3 to 5, 6, 7 aircraft per night.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
they all have different things to do on them.
And it's different models, right? It's not the same different plane models.
Uh, Right now, where
Mm-hmm.
I am, I work mostly on Boeing 737 Classic, NG, and MAX.
Mm-hmm.
I also look at Airbus 320, 321, 319, and 330. That's mostly what I look at
Mm-hmm.
right now with the company
Mm-hmm.
that I'm at. However, if another airline or another carrier came in and they
Mm-hmm.
needed our help, we'll
Mm-hmm.
be able to help them. We have I think we have about 9 aircraft on our certificate that we can, that we are approved to work on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, we'll answer the first question first. So, Leroy was asking, are you licensed to work only in Alberta, Canada?
Sorry, say that again?
Are you only licensed to work in Alberta slash Canada, or can you be licensed anywhere?
So I'm licensed to work in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
but with the experience that I have, I can go to United States, I can go to New Zealand, I can pretty much go to any other country.
Mm-hmm.
All I will have to do when I get there is write their civil aviation regulations exam, and if I pass that,
Mm-hmm.
then I should be able to go on.
Okay, okay. And then Tandy has another question here. So out of context a little. So for a crash like the Ethiopian airline, who is responsible? The engineers that signed off on the inspection and whatnot, they were protected. I guess who's responsible
So,
for that?
okay, with that incident, specific to that incident, is
Mm-hmm.
it's still an ongoing investigation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to speculate too much,
Mm-hmm.
but from what I have heard, uh, it's something to do with the aircraft design.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Okay.
but I don't have enough information to say much on that.
Yeah.
Uh, each and every aircraft that has an incident, uh, the governing authority
Mm-hmm.
uh, will investigate and find out what happened, and then find out who's responsible, and find out what can be done to prevent that in the future. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and just in case there's somebody interested in being an aircraft engineer, I'll let you know that there is a responsibility that comes with it. So, like
Mm-hmm.
Tandy mentioned here, if the aircraft crashed and when they did investigation, they found out that it was the engineer who did a mistake, they could be held legally liable for that, and they could face imprisonment. So, just
Oh.
putting it out there that we
Mm-hmm.
do carry that kind of responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. So what are the pros and cons of this profession?
Well, it's not for everybody. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I do it because I enjoy working on the aircraft. I love airplanes. I love how they operate, and
Mm-hmm.
so for me, it's a joy to work on airplane and face different challenges every day. So every time somebody will come with a different thing, and I have to figure out how to fix it. So that's an inner joy for me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Depending on the company that you work for too, there's some nice compensation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I can imagine.
yeah,
And do you work
yeah.
12-hour days?
For me, yes, I work 7 days on, 7 days off, 12-hour days. But every company will have different schedules. Some people
Mm-hmm.
work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week,
Mm-hmm.
and some people work 4 days on, 4 days off. Some people
Mm-hmm.
work weird schedule, 4 days on, 5 days off. There's all sorts of schedule. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to be in the profession, you have to be prepared for shift work.
Oh.
And most of the time, it's
Mm-hmm.
evening or night shift because that's when the plane is not flying. But again,
Oh.
it depends on the company that you work for
Mm-hmm.
and the position that you hold. Because I held a
Mm-hmm.
position before where I was daytime guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So last last question that I have. Uh, what advice would you give to someone who's looking to go into this profession?
Do proper research.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would say.
Okay.
When I signed up, we had these uh, expectations that the salary will be so high, but
Mm-hmm.
it's again depends on the company that you work for.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the companies, it's not that much. It's enough to get the bills paid. It's enough to live comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not as crazy as I thought when I signed up.
Mm-hmm.
So do proper research.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of companies that you can go to and spend a day with the guys just to see how it works. Uh, I know I speak mostly of SATE because that's where my experience is.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of there's lots of career uh, trade fairs or what you call it that you can uh, go to and get more information on that. Another website that you can go to is Av Canada. You can go there and see there's different forums that you can look at and see what other experiences guys have had.
Mm-hmm. Okay, okay, that's some good advice. That's all the questions that I had for you today. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we finish up?
Uh, if you are mechanically inclined, it's
Mm-hmm.
fun.
It's
It's
fun.
fun. It's
Okay.
fun. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Well, thank you so much for coming on ProKonnect today. I enjoyed you having on here and educating us and letting us know more about this profession. Thank you so much for coming on.